Stephen Miller thought he was walking into another easy debate, just another studio segment where he could throw talking points and come out unscathed. But Jasmine Crockett wasn't there to be outmaneuvered. In less than 20 seconds, everything flipped. The debate collapsed, and so did Stephen Miller's carefully crafted image. It happened live on air in a small Tempe, Arizona studio during a panel discussion about immigration and national security. The network hosting it wasn't a household name, but they were hungry for attention, and they got more than they could have imagined. Stephen Miller sat on one side of the panel, sharp-tongued, unrelenting, and confident in his ability to dominate. Opposite him was Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, calm, precise, and unwilling to be cornered. He launched into her early, calling her soft on border policy, accusing her of tearing apart American families. Jasmine didn't interrupt. She didn't even flinch. She waited, and then she dropped the line. "You want to talk about family values, Stephen?" she said, her tone calm but cutting. "Maybe start with why your wife left you and took the kids 6 months ago." The air in the studio turned heavy. No one moved. Not the hosts, not the camera crew, not Stephen. His face shifted, not in surprise, but in the kind of frozen fury that comes when someone cuts deeper than expected. He didn't deny it. He didn't laugh. He lashed out. "You arrogant liar," he snapped, pointing a trembling finger in her direction. "That is a disgusting personal attack." The hosts tried to intervene. He kept going. "You think this is funny? This is why no one takes you seriously." Jasmine stayed composed. "You brought up families, Stephen. I simply asked a question." Then came the moment that sealed it. As Stephen half stood from his chair, still seething, he muttered into his still active mic, "You people are trash." Jasmine leaned in slightly. "Say that again, please." The studio scrambled to cut to commercial, but not fast enough. Inside the control room, producer Pete Langston yanked off his headset and slammed it onto the console. "What the hell just happened?" he snapped. One assistant murmured, "We missed the cut by 3 seconds. Another voice added, "It's already been clipped. It's online." Backstage, Stephen stormed into the green room, slamming the door behind him. 2 interns stood outside, frozen in place, unsure if they should check on him or pretend they hadn't seen anything. Jasmine remained seated, unbothered. She calmly sent a text, her expression unreadable. Elsewhere, senior producer Danica Bell was in a heated argument with legal. "She made a personal allegation," one lawyer said. "We should have gone to break sooner." Danica fired back. "She made a statement." He exploded. "That's on him, not us." Back in the control room, Pete flipped through the remaining segment cards. "They're not coming back on together," he muttered. "No way." A junior producer suggested swapping in a backup panelist. Pete shook his head. "We go cold. Tell Miles to shift the narrative. Quick." In the green room, Stephen was pacing, red-faced, furious. "She's done," he shouted, pointing at a random assistant. "I want an apology on air, or I'm suing." "This entire network," the assistant didn't argue. He quietly left and texted Pete. "Stephen is threatening to sue, demanding a retraction. He's about to blow." Meanwhile, Jasmine received a call from her aide, Nico. "You okay?" he asked. "Never better," she replied calmly. That hit harder than expected. She asked for it. I just handed her the receipt. Outside, a small crowd had already formed. College students, political junkies, influencers, they all gathered near the building. Rumors were spreading. Some said Stephen had punched someone. Others claimed Jasmine dismantled him during the break. None of it was true. Yet inside, Danica and Pete faced a dilemma. Bring back Jasmine, coax Stephen into returning, or move on without either. Pete shook his head. "We're not putting him back on, and she doesn't need managing." Danica looked at the monitor wall. "We don't Have a segment anymore, she said. We are the segment. Pete took a breath. No apology. No statement. Just move. Tell the anchors to keep it even. If we apologize, we look guilty. The show returned from commercial with a stiff camera transition and anchor Miles doing damage control. Welcome back, he said. As you saw, things became heated in our previous segment. We'll now shift to a broader conversation on public trust, values, and accountability. Professional, polished. But everyone watching knew. They missed the real story. Because while the anchors were talking, the internet had already blown the doors off. A college student from Mesa uploaded a 15-second clip to X just 89 seconds after the outburst. It ended right as Stephen shoved his chair and muttered those 5 words, "You people are trash." His caption? What did Stephen just say? 600,000 views in an hour, 5 million by midday. TikTok moved faster. Looped edits of Jasmine's line played over theme music. Some had fake court sound effects. One simply showed her expression with the caption, "When your ex tries to act holy after cheating 6 times." Another turned it into a sports-style knockout scoreboard. Jasmine, 10. Stephen, 0. Reddit was next. Reddit was... Politics blew up. A thread titled, "Jasmine Crockett just ended Stephen Miller, live," hit the front page. Thousands debated whether she went too far or if it was long overdue. Then came the digital digging. Old blog posts, blurry photos, legal paperwork. Most of it unverified, but that didn't stop the wildfire. Rumors claimed Stephen's wife, Kara, had left months ago. That she'd pulled the kids out of private school. That she was using her maiden name again. None of it was proven. But the silence from Stephen's side made it believable. News outlets treaded lightly. One called it a jarring collision between public persona and private reality. Another said, Stephen Miller, the man who built a brand on moral authority, was publicly undressed. Meanwhile, Jasmine's social media exploded. 200,000 new followers overnight. Her team posted a single story. Some truths don't need context, they just need daylight. Stephen's camp, not a word. No tweet, no denial, no clarification, and the silence. That was louder than any denial ever could be. Because if it wasn't true, why say nothing? What most people didn't know was that 3 days before the debate, Jasmine had received a strange, unsigned email. No introduction, no subject line. Just a screenshot of a short email thread and a single line. You should know who's lecturing. You about family values? Jasmine hesitated. The thread was between 2 people, initials only, CD and RW. One line stood out. He hasn't seen the kids in 42 days. Not because of court orders. He just doesn't show up. She stared at it for a long time. It felt different. Not like a political trap or opposition research. It felt quiet, tired, honest. She forwarded it to Nico. His reply was short. Do we verify it or leave it? Jasmine didn't answer immediately. She just kept rereading it. Meanwhile, whispers had already reached Washington. At a steakhouse in Georgetown, 2 conservative aides traded gossip over bourbon. He's imploding, one said. She took everything, kids, dog, the furniture. Didn't even leave a note. Another nodded. If this breaks, it's going to get bloody. In Santa Monica, a former staffer of Stephen's met a mid-level political reporter. When asked what hadn't been printed yet, the staffer replied, "He's obsessed with image. He'll spend half an hour adjusting his tie. But behind the scenes, total mess." Why hasn't Kara said anything? The reporter asked. She signed an NDA when they got married, the staffer said. So did the nanny. That's how he keeps control. The reporter started making calls. Jasmine still hadn't responded to that anonymous email, but she'd read it at least 6 times. The hypocrisy of it all clung to her. Stephen was out there, sermonizing about the sanctity of family, while quietly falling apart behind closed doors. The night before the debate, she called Nico. I'm going to say it. He paused. You sure? We've got enough for it not to be denied. Okay, he said. Just know it's hard to shut a door once it's open. She already knew that. She hated personal attacks. But this wasn't about petty revenge. This was about finally holding someone accountable who had never been held accountable before. Someone who used values as a weapon while hiding behind a broken truth, and she wasn't alone. Because when Cara Delaney, Stephen's wife, heard that her name might be mentioned on live TV, she didn't panic. She sent a single text to a trusted contact. Let it happen. She had been invisible for months, quiet, not out of weakness, but survival. She wasn't a political wife, no speeches, no fundraisers. She barely existed in the public eye, and that was by design. But the day after the debate, Cara texted her old friend, Marissa Lang, the clip followed by one sentence. I never thought someone would actually say it. She didn't want a headline. She wanted the truth out. So she wrote, a letter, not for attention, not for platforms, just the truth. She shared it with a few close friends and her lawyer. They all asked, are you sure you want to do this? She was. The letter was under 800 words, no legal jargon, no accusations, just a story. She wrote about control, about how Stephen told her which photos to delete, which outfits to wear, what posts to take down. About how disagreements ended not in fights, but in silence that could last for days. She wrote about the children, how he scheduled visits, then canceled without warning. How their son would wait by the window and ask, is Daddy coming today? And the answer was almost always no. She didn't describe the night she left, just a single line. I packed quietly, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking, and she ended it with clarity. I've stayed silent to protect my children. But silence isn't always safety. Sometimes it's just a cage. The letter leaked within hours. Activist circles shared it. Mid-tier reporters published it. One journalist reached out to confirm its authenticity. Cara replied with one word. Yes, that was enough. Cable news hosts quoted it live on air, some delicately, others boldly. One called it the softest demolition of a public figure we've ever seen. In a Scottsdale hotel suite, Stephen read it 3 times. Not because he didn't understand it, because he couldn't believe she had finally said it. And Cara? She didn't go on a media tour. She kept doing school runs, walking in the park. But now people recognized her. A few nodded. One woman at a grocery store touched her shoulder and said softly, "You didn't imagine it." And that stayed with her, because for years she'd wondered. Meanwhile, Jasmine Crockett stayed silent. She didn't tweet, didn't post, until 2 nights later when she appeared on a local news program in Austin. No lights, no makeup team, just a simple chair and a single question. Some say what you said was below the belt. Others say it was overdue. What's your response? Jasmine didn't hesitate. I think the truth sits somewhere in the middle, and I'm fine with that. She leaned forward. I don't attack families. That's not who I am. But when a man stands on television and lectures me about households while his own is in ruins, he doesn't get to do that unchallenged. The anchor asked, So, you knew? She nodded. I was informed a few days earlier. Not by someone trying to smear him. Someone tired of the gaslighting. That word lingered. Gaslighting. Then she looked directly into the camera. Women, especially. Black women, in public life are constantly told to stay calm, stay quiet, don't cause trouble. Meanwhile, men interrupt, yell, accuse. And when we push back, we're the problem. The studio fell silent. Some donors pulled out after the interview. 2 sponsors dropped their support. She received threats. Her team added security. But something else happened too. Her website crashed from traffic. Hundreds of messages poured in. From women, from teachers, from strangers. One message stood out. I left a man like that 12 years ago. Nobody believed me until I stopped explaining and just left. Thank you for not backing down. Sometimes, Jasmine said quietly, it takes one person saying it out loud to remind others they're not alone. Stephen? He disappeared. No interviews, no podcasts, not even a denial. But the story kept growing. Conservative media tried to spin it. She crossed the line. This is character assassination. His private life should be off limits. But it didn't land, because Stephen Miller had built his career tearing others down. And now, when it came for him, he had no defense. His name vanished from event flyers. His podcast lost sponsors. His allies retreated. Focus groups showed his favorability tanked, not because he divorced, but because of how he handled it, with anger, silence, and blame. That week, Kara filed for sole custody, and still, Stephen stayed silent. Then came the photo. A blurry snapshot from a resort server. Stephen, alone, at a golf course table. No phone, no book. Just silence. He looked smaller, older. Not scandalous. Just defeated. Kara never responded to questions. She enrolled in grad school, started volunteering at a women's center, and Jasmine, she never said his name again, because she didn't have to. The country already had. And somewhere in the quiet, people who had been silenced for years felt something they hadn't felt in a long time. Heard. Because the thing about truth is, it doesn't always echo loudly. Sometimes it just whispers until someone brave enough finally says it out loud.